This video will demonstrate the interlayer check capability available in the Constraint Manager. Demonstrated will be how to create interlayer checks. To create our interlayer rules, we'll have to select from the left side and the right side, and then define down the bottom the type, the value, whether that's enabled or not, the DRC label, which is the right-hand side of the DRC marker, which DRC subclass that goes on, and a description. So first, let's create a gap rule. This rule is going to create a gap between vias and pins to a transition area to prevent cracking and splitting of the holes in the flex area. So I want to create one, but I can now use these filters and layers and things like that. So one side says vias and pins, so I'm going to select in here and select vias and pins. You notice now on the left-hand side, I only have available certain layers. It's redefined my left-hand side to be only those on the layers that contain vias and pins. The other one has geometries for layer 2, but notice there's a lot of different ones. And again, remember this is a transition area. So I'm going to just type in T up here. It has now filtered everything with a T. I'll now do an R for transition. And notice the only thing now that comes out is the transition zone. So it's pretty easy for me to filter this out and make this matrix a lot smaller. So I wanted the pins and vias on the internal layer or the flex 1 layer. So I'm going to select here. And notice at the very top my rules are that has been added in. Layer 1 is the vias and pins on flex 1 and against the transition zone. I have to define the rest of the values. So my rule type again is going to be gap. So I will select under here, change that to gap. The value wants to be 12 mils, let's say. I want that enabled. The DRC label, again, I can put anything in there. I'll put in like a lowercase t for transition. I'm going to have that defined on the, let's put it on the DRC subclass flex 1. And the description, we'll type in via and pin to transition area to prevent cracking. So that's my new rule. It has been defined. We can now check to see if we have any violations of that. So let me go back to my design. I'll use a view file. Here is my transition zone. You can kind of see it highlighted right there as the text says transition. So this shape right here is a transition zone. These are my vias. Now since I just created that rule, I have to update my DRC. I'll use tools, update DRC. Notice now I have some violations here. We'll zoom in a little bit more. And you can see there's my vias. Notice that there's the I and the T, the lowercase t. And the DRC marker says it should be 12 mil gap. It's only basically 3 mils away. So I could go ahead now and just slide these vias out of the way. Let me go into Etch Edit Application mode. I'll select and drag on the via to slide down some. And therefore I have removed all my DRCs. Let's define a inside rule. We'll use this to define that the edge of a stiffener adhesive geometry to the edge of the stiffener itself. We're doing this to make sure that we prevent the adhesive from oozing outside the stiffener. We must have a minimum value of 45 mils so that the stiffener adhesive must be contained within the boundary of the stiffener. So since we want the stiffener adhesive to be inside of the stiffener, we'll use the inside rule. So let's take a look here at another view file. So right now we have, that's the stiffener. We don't have the adhesive done yet. We'll do that in a second. So let's go create our rule. We'll go to the Constraint Manager. We want to put this back to geometries. And for the adhesive, it's going to be, it starts off ADH. So we want the adhesive on stiffener flex 1. Let's do this first. Then we'll do, those are already set to geometries, so I want the stiffeners. So we want the rule for the adhesive on the stiffener flex 1 with the stiffener flex 1. That's the rule I want to create. You can see that got added up top here. That's an inside rule. Since the adhesive wants to be inside of the stiffener, so this is layer 1, this is layer 2, so we want a 1 inside 2 rule. We want them to be at least 45 mils inside the other one. We're going to enable that. The DRC marker, we'll just use a uppercase A for like adhesive. We'll leave that on interlayer, and we'll just call this a adhesive compression spacing to prevent leakage. So that rule has been created. Let's go back to the PCB editor. Again, that's my stiffener flex 1. I don't have the adhesive yet, so we'll just use the shape rectangular command. Go to the options window. Make sure that is on the class rigid flex. Subclass will be adhesive stiffener flex 1. And I'm going to type in X and Y's. So notice that where that went in, it's a little bit inside. The adhesive is a little bit inside there, but not far enough. I move my mouse over the DRC. Notice it wants to be 45. Right now, the way that was put in, that was only 5 mils inside. So again, we could just use the shape edit application mode. I could just click when I get on a boundary. Let me zoom in some. Drag that way some. Notice again, it has to be on all edges, so that's why I have to keep on moving these on all 4 sides. Okay, I have to move it down just a little bit further. You get the idea. Let's create an overlap rule. In this case, we'll use the overlap that the tin plated material is extended into the transition area. So again, I can go to my visibility. So we went, here's the transition area. This is the tin plating area. We'll go back to the Constraint Manager. They're both on geometries, they're not on conductors. We'll do TR for the transition area. Tin for the tin area. Do it on the tin plate bottom to the transition zone. I'll have to now come down here and create a new rule. This wants to be an overlap. The value is going to be 25. I'm going to have that enabled. We'll pick a letter of O. We'll have that on interlayer. Prevent tin plating peeling. Go to the PCB editor again. We'll do an update DRC. Notice we have a violation down here. This would be 25 mil overlap. There are actually only 10 mils overlap. So again, I could just drag this edge out to guarantee that they're now overlapped by that much. This concludes the video that demonstrated the interlayer check capability available in the Constraint Manager. This video focused on how to create interlayer checks.